Kolani, good evening to you. This is an astonishing story. Telkom filing papers in the High Court in Tshwane to have the President's decision to order an SIU investigation into Telkom declared unconstitutional.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, Stephen. Telkom argues that President Ramaphosa acted unlawfully in giving this instruction to the SIU and has now challenged Ramaphosa's proclamation to the SIU in a two-part application at the High Court. We are joined by Telecoms analyst Siphiwe Chireka to actually unpack what this entire case is about. Siphiwe, thank you very much for joining us. Going back just a little bit, in January this year, the President authorizing the SIU to probe allegations of malfeasance dating back as far as 2006. What exactly did the President ask the SIU to investigate?
Right. So it's a very broad mandate that came out. So it was really basically looking at any potential areas of maladministration with Telkom, because as we know, especially around that time, there was the big issue around multilinks. They lost a lot of money around that. So it was quite surprising that, okay, it's like 15, 16 years down the line, now we're investigating the possibility of maladministration around that. And so it is still quite baffling for us in industry what could have been, call it a reasonable and rational grounds for this investigation. Because when the exit happened at the time, I would say the markers were there that it was just downright a bad business deal. Nothing more. I wouldn't call it more like maladministration as such, but it was just really bad, a bad move on the part of Telkom at the time in terms of the type of operator, the type of technology, the type of market, and just the general business approach. So it's been, we're still quite baffled as to what form of maladministration, except if it includes just bad business decisions in the investigations, would the mandate be looking at.
And Siphiwe, Telkom also argues in the court papers that they filed that shareholders have lost billions of rands in shareholder value since that proclamation was announced. But Part A of this application seeks to interdict the SIU from continuing with its investigation. Part B seeks to declare unconstitutional, invalid, and of no force or effect the proclamation issued by the President. What is exactly Telkom, opposing here? Do they even have a case to stand, a leg to stand on?
Right. So, look, at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to the courts, right, to decide whether this is a valid argument or not. But if we were to look at what Telkom is going after, and I believe for Part A, it is really around trying to secure the reputational harm, right, that comes to any company if you're under any form of investigation, valid or invalid, right? It can cause harm, and especially as a listed company. And to your point, the share price takes a knocking, investors take a knocking, because now there's uncertainty. There's now this sudden, cloud hanging over the company. So from my understanding, it's that Part A is really an effort by Telkom to not have this go any further than it has and cause any more harm than it has in terms of since the proclamation was made. Now, the second part is where it gets very interesting, right? Because we know that Telkom is saying, first of all, actually, the proclamations don't even actually outside the purview of the Act, because Telkom then claims that it is not a state institution in the strictest sense. It doesn't use public money. They don't control state assets as contemplated in the really raise the question like, Telkom may actually have a plausible leg to stand on based on that. And so that, from my understanding, is really a very strong grounds for Telkom to actually have this dismissed in the courts.
More baffling is the fact that President Ramaphosa was the leader of government business from 2014 until he ascended to the presidency. And of course, government owns 40% of Telkom. Have we ever seen a public-private company come after a sitting president before in a manner that Eskom has?
You mean Telkom?
Yes, Telkom. My apologies.
I mean, the answer is no, right? And I guess in the case of Telkom, it does, I guess, make sense to name the person that has actually issued, right, the instruction as part of because the instruction did come from the president himself. And so I guess it's part of, like, we are going to include everybody else that is part of that instruction. Of course, it is quite surprising that, normally we see them go after the minister, right? The minister is the highest that we've seen in the past that they go after, whether it's around spectrum, whether it's around the digital dividend, whatever the case might be. And I guess in this case, they have decided that, well, given that the mandate goes all the way to the top, then they might as well, name persons all the way to the top. But definitely something very, 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 very surprising.
Siphiwe, that's all the time we have tonight. Siphiwe Chireka is a Telecoms analyst. Thank you very much there for your time.